Come in from the cold tonight. Let the world outside fade, just for a while, and let yourself be carried somewhere far away, somewhere warm, somewhere gently rocking, somewhere safe. Pull the blanket a little higher. Settle your shoulders into the pillow. There is nowhere else you need to be. Tonight, you are stepping aboard a train of legend, the Flying Scotsman, gliding north through a storm-swept midnight. Rain streaks the brass-rimmed windows. Thunder murmurs somewhere far beyond the hills. But you are inside. You are dry. You are warm. A green-shaded lamp glows beside you, low and amber, like a small private sun. The seats are deep, velvet, patterned with age and comfort. A cup of Earl Grey tea sits half-finished, its last curl of steam rising slowly, unhurried, the way everything tonight will be unhurried. There is no reason to stay awake. There is no reason to hold on to anything at all. Just listen. Just breathe. Just let the rhythm of the rails carry you gently, gently down into sleep. You are nestled deep into your seat now, the velvet worn soft by decades of quiet travelers before you. The fabric holds a faint warmth, as if it remembers every body that has ever rested here, every tired traveler who found peace in this same gentle rocking. Outside your window, the night is a moving painting of black and silver. Rain falls in long diagonal lines, caught for a moment in the gold spill of the lamp before vanishing into darkness again. The British countryside rolls past unseen, but you can feel it hedgerows, sleeping farms, church spires rising like quiet sentinels into the storm. The compartment smells of polished oak, of old brass, of the leather-bound books resting untouched on the little shelf beside you. It is a smell like a library at midnight, like a grandfather's study, like safety itself distilled into scent. You breathe it in slowly. There is nothing urgent here. There is only this, the lamp, the tea, the rhythm of iron wheels on iron rails. Click-clack, click-clack, click-clack. The sound does not startle you. It never has. It is steady, dependable, the closest thing to a heartbeat that machinery can offer. It moves through the floor, up through the seat, into your own chest, until you are not sure anymore where the train's rhythm ends and your own slows to meet it. Somewhere ahead, unseen in the dark, the great locomotive breathes fire into the night. You cannot see the furnace from here, but you can feel its work in every gentle sway of the carriage, in the low, distant moan of the whistle that rises now and then like something ancient calling across the hills. It is a comforting sound, a lonely sound, but lonely in the way that makes you grateful for exactly where you are inside, warm, held. Lightning flickers somewhere past the glass. For just a moment, it illuminates everything, the fields, the fences, the low stone walls that have stood in these lands for centuries. Then it is gone, and the darkness folds back over the world like a blanket being pulled snug. You lift the teacup, It is warm against your palms, the porcelain thin and delicate, rimmed in a faded gold pattern. The scent of bergamot rises with the last of the steam floral, citrus, faintly bitter, entirely soothing. You do not need to finish it. You simply hold it, feeling its warmth seep into your hands, into your wrists, up through your arms, settling somewhere behind your ribs like a small captured sun. Beyond the window, steam from the engine drifts past in pale ribbons, caught briefly in your lamplight before dissolving into the rain-soaked dark. It billows like breath on a cold morning, like something alive exhaling into the night. You watch it curl and vanish, hypnotic in its repetition. The rain grows heavier for a moment, drumming harder against the brass window frame, 1,000 small fingers tapping out a lullaby only the night could compose. Then it softens again, falling back into its steady, patient rhythm. Rain does not rush. It falls exactly as long as it needs to, and then it stops, and neither timing is wrong. You could learn something from the rain tonight. The train sways gently around a long curve, and you feel your body lean with it, unresisting, trusting the track to know its own way through the darkness. This is the particular piece of night travel, the sense that you do not need to steer, do not need to watch the road, do not need to do anything at all except exist quietly inside your own warmth while something vast and capable carries you forward. Somewhere behind you, other compartments hold other sleeping travelers, each cocooned in their own small pool of lamplight, each rocked by the same rhythm, each safe from the same storm. You are alone in your compartment, but you are not truly alone. The whole train moves together, breathes together, presses forward together through the wet and windswept dark. Your eyelids grow heavy in the lamp's low glow. The tea has cooled just slightly, sweet and fragrant still. The oak paneling gleams softly, reflecting small warm echoes of light. Outside, the rain continues its ancient work, and the rails continue their ancient song, and you are perfectly warm inside, cradled by velvet and brass and the patient rhythm of the northbound night. There is nowhere to be but here. There is nothing to do but rest. Somewhere in the darkness beyond your window, the train crosses an unseen border, the line where England softens into Scotland, where the fields grow wilder, the hills rise taller, and the very air seems to carry the weight of older stories. You cannot see the border marked on any fence or sign, but you feel it, the way you feel a room grow quiet before someone begins to speak. And so, softly, as the rain continues its steady percussion against the glass, let me tell you a story, not to startle you, only to wrap around you, the way mist wraps around the glens this train now passes through. Far to the north, on a rocky crag above the town of Stirling, there stands a castle older than memory. Its stone walls have watched over these lands for centuries, through the marching of ancient kings, through coronations and quiet winters, through storms not unlike the one falling around you now. And within those walls, it is said, a gentle spirit still walks. They call her the Green Lady. No one agrees entirely on who she was in life. Some say a lady in waiting. Some say a queen's own attendant. Some say simply a woman who loved the castle so deeply that death could not convince her to leave it. What the stories do agree on is this: she is not fearsome. She is not cruel. She is, by every account, a presence of quiet care, a watchful spirit who has, more than once, been credited with saving those who slept within the castle's ancient walls from unseen danger. Imagine her now, drifting without hurry through torchlit corridors, her pale green gown trailing over cold stone floors that have felt centuries of footsteps before hers. She does not frighten the sleeping children in their chambers. She simply watches over them, the way a grandmother might watch over a cradle in the small hours before dawn, present, patient, protective, asking nothing in return. Some say she appears before storms, as if to comfort those who fear the thunder. Some say she has been glimpsed by firelight, standing near a hearth, warming her hands at flames that cannot touch her. Perhaps, in a castle so old, in a land where winter presses down for so many long months, comfort itself takes on a shape, becomes something you can almost see, standing quietly in the corner of a candlelit room. Long before the Green Lady's time, long before castles of stone rose above these glens at all, other travelers moved through this same land. Ancient kings and their weary companies marched these very hills, cloaked in wool and leather against a cold that has not changed in 1,000 years. They would have felt this same rain. They would have seen these same mountains, dark and looming under a sky heavy with cloud. Picture them now, if you like, torches guttering in the wind, breath rising in pale clouds, boots sinking into soft turf softened by centuries of rain. They marched not for glory alone, but simply because the land demanded it, because in the Highlands, movement itself was survival, was purpose, was the quiet insistence of continuing onward despite the cold. And yet, for all their hardship, there is something enduring and beautiful in the thought of the men and women who walked these glens long before railways, long before steam and brass and velvet seats, and who found their own small comforts even then. A shared fire, a shared meal, a blanket, however thin, wrapped around tired shoulders. The bones of comfort have not changed, even as the flesh of it has grown so much softer for you tonight. The Highlands themselves seem to hold memory the way stone holds cold deeply, quietly, for a very long time. Every lock, dark and still beneath the rain, seems to remember every storm that has ever crossed its surface. Every mountain, its peak lost tonight in cloud, seems to remember every traveler who has ever looked up at it in wonder or in weariness. There is a particular kind of melancholy in old places, not a sad melancholy, but a warm one, like the ache of a beautiful memory. The Highlands carry this ache in every mist-covered hill, every crumbling stone wall, every ancient path worn smooth by feet that stopped walking centuries ago. and yet none of it feels lost. It feels instead held gently, permanently, the way this train now holds you. Perhaps that is why the legends persist. Perhaps the Green Lady still walks her castle corridors not because the past refuses to end, but because some comforts are simply too important to fade. The comfort of being watched over, of being kept safe through the night, of knowing that even in the oldest, coldest places, someone or something still tends the hearth. Your own hearth tonight is smaller, just a lamp, just a cup of tea, just velvet and brass and the steady rhythm of the rails. But it is no less real. You, too, are being carried safely through a wild and ancient land, watched over in your own quiet way, warm while the storm does its ancient work outside. The rain has not stopped. It will not stop for hours yet, but it does not need to. It simply falls, patient and eternal, over glens that have known 10,000 such nights before this one, and will know 10,000 more after you have long since drifted off to sleep. Let the story settle over you now, the way mist settles over the lochs. There is nothing more to fear in these old hills than there ever was. Only stories, only stone, only the gentle, ancient hush of a land that has always known how to keep its travelers warm. Far ahead of your quiet compartment, past carriage after carriage of sleeping travelers, there is another world entirely smaller, hotter, louder, and yet, in its own way, just as peaceful. This is the engine car, the beating heart of the great locomotive, where a lone figure moves through his nightly ritual with the steady calm of a man who has done this work 10,000 times before. Let your mind drift there now, gently, the way steam drifts from a chimney into open sky. He is the night stoker, and he has spent more midnights inside this iron chamber than most men spend awake beneath open sky. His face glows faint orange, lit only by the furnace's steady breath, and his movements carry the unhurried rhythm of long practice. Shovel, turn, release, shovel, turn, release. Coal meets flame in a soft roar of light, and the fire deepens, and the great engine sighs its approval somewhere in its iron bones. He does not need to think about each motion anymore. His body has memorized this work the way a heart memorizes its own beating. And so, as his hands move steadily through their task, his mind is free to wander, free to watch the gauges, free to listen to the rain drumming faintly on the roof far above, free to hold quiet company with his own thoughts in this small, glowing world of heat and iron. The pressure gauges glow softly before him, their brass faces catching the firelight, their needles trembling ever so slightly with the engine's steady exertion. He watches them the way a sailor watches stars, not with worry, but with familiarity, with the quiet confidence of someone who has learned to read a language most people never notice exists. Every needle in its proper place, every gauge whispering that all is well, that the fire is steady, that the great machine above him is doing exactly what it was built to do. There is a particular pride in this kind of work, quiet, unspoken, rarely seen by the passengers whose warm compartments depend entirely on it. No one riding in the velvet seats above ever thinks of him, and he does not mind. He has made peace with invisibility. His satisfaction comes from something smaller and steadier than recognition. The simple, private knowledge that he is good at what he does, and that his good work carries hundreds of sleeping strangers safely through the storm. Tonight, as the fire settles into its familiar rhythm, his thoughts drift backward, the way tired thoughts often do, to a story his own father once told him. A story about this very train, on a night not unlike this one. In the year 1928, this same locomotive made history. It ran non-stop from London to Edinburgh, the very first train ever to do so, nearly 400 miles without a single stop to rest its engine or refill its coal. To manage such a feat, engineers built a corridor connecting the tender to the cab, so that stokers could be secretly swapped mid-journey, one relieving another without the train ever slowing, without a single passenger ever knowing that anything unusual had occurred at all. He smiles faintly at the thought, his face briefly lit gold as another shovel of coal catches flame. There is something almost magical in it, the idea of one journey being quietly carried forward by unseen hands, passed gently from one tired worker to the next, all so that the people above could sleep undisturbed, could wake to find themselves simply, impossibly already there. Perhaps that is the truest kind of care, he thinks, the kind no one notices, the kind that asks for no thanks, only asks to be done well. He wipes his brow with the back of one gloved hand, leaving a faint smudge of coal dust near his temple, and glances briefly upward, though there is nothing to see but iron and rivets and the low ceiling of his small domain. Somewhere above him, he knows, 100 small lamps glow gold in 100 quiet compartments. Somewhere above him, tea grows cool in porcelain cups, and tired heads rest against velvet cushions, and none of them will ever know his name. He does not need them to. The rain continues its work outside, hammering faintly against distant windows he will never look through tonight. But down here, in the deep orange glow of his small iron world, none of that matters. There is only the fire and the gauges and the steady shovel-turn release of a job done well, night after night, year after year, carrying strangers safely through the dark. He checks the pressure once more. Steady, strong, exactly as it should be. And somewhere above, though he will never know it, you drift a little deeper into your own warmth, entirely unaware of the quiet, glowing labor that carries you so gently onward, grateful, in some wordless way, for hands you will never see, for a fire tended faithfully so that yours might stay lit too. The journey begins to slow now, though you may not notice it at first, only a gentle easing in the rhythm beneath you. The click-clack softening, stretching, growing more spacious, like a lullaby reaching its final, gentlest verse. The night has grown very late. The storm outside has settled into something quieter, steadier, more like a whisper than a downpour. You rise slowly from your compartment, wrapped still in warmth, and make your way toward the observation car at the rear of the train. There is no rush in your steps. There is nowhere else the night requires you to be. The observation car welcomes you with its own small hearth, a modest fire glowing behind a polished brass guard, crackling low and contented in the corner. Here, the ceiling curves overhead in gently domed glass, and through it, you can watch the rain slide in slow rivulets across the curved panes, lit faintly gold by the firelight below. You settle into a deep armchair near the hearth, the velvet here even softer than before, worn smooth by countless late-night travelers who once sat exactly where you sit now, watching this same rain fall against this same glass. The fire warms your hands, your face, the small exposed patch of skin at your wrist where your sleeve has slipped. Outside, the Highlands have given way to gentler country again, and the storm, having done its ancient work, begins at last to loosen its grip on the night. The rain falls more slowly now, fat single drops instead of driving sheets, each one catching firelight briefly as it slides down the curved glass above you, tracing slow golden paths before disappearing into darkness. You watch them fall one after another, hypnotic in their gentle repetition. There is nothing to count, nothing to track, nothing to do but watch and breathe, and feel the fire's warmth seep further into you with every passing moment. The train itself seems to exhale now, slowing by degrees, the great engine far ahead easing its labor as the night grows old. Somewhere far below, in his small glowing world of iron and coal, the night stoker rests his shovel at last, watching his gauges settle into their quietest hours, his own long work nearly done. You do not know his name. You never will, but some small part of you feels grateful anyway. In the wordless way one feels grateful for warmth without needing to understand where it came from. The Green Lady, too, is somewhere far behind you now, still walking her ancient corridors, still tending her quiet watch over sleeping strangers in a castle older than memory. The kings who once marched these glens have long since become soil and story, and yet something of them remains, here, in this fire, in this rain, in the deep and abiding comfort of simply being carried safely through the dark. You pull the soft wool throw a little higher over your knees. It smells faintly of cedar, of old velvet, of 100 years of quiet journeys. The fire pops softly, sending one small ember drifting upward behind its brass guard before fading to nothing, like a tiny star extinguishing itself gently, without struggle, without fear. You are cocooned now, entirely, in every comfort this old train has to offer: velvet, brass, firelight, rain. The world outside continues its ancient rhythms without needing anything further from you. The storm will end when it is ready. The train will arrive when it is ready. And you, too, may rest now, exactly when you are ready, with nothing left to hold on to, nothing left to watch for, nothing left to do but let your eyes grow heavy in the hearth's low golden glow. Safe inside, warm inside, cocooned entirely from the cold and the storm and the long dark miles still unwinding somewhere far outside this glass. The rain continues falling, the fire continues glowing, and you continue drifting gently, gently towards sleep. The fire has burned low now, down to a soft amber glow, embers breathing quietly behind their brass guard. The rain has softened to the gentlest whisper against the curved glass above you, each drop slower than the last, as if the storm itself has grown sleepy too. The train moves on through the last dark hours of the night, unhurried, patient, carrying you gently toward wherever morning waits. You do not need to know where. You do not need to know when. You are held entirely by velvet and brass and firelight and the quiet devotion of hands you will never see. Let your breathing slow to match the fire's gentle rhythm. Let your shoulders sink fully into the warmth around you. Everything that needed tending has been tended. Everything that needed carrying is being carried. You are safe here. You have always been safe here. Let the last of the firelight fade behind your closing eyes. Let the rain become distant, then fainter, then nothing at all. Let the old train rock you one final time into the deepest, softest kind of sleep. Good night, gentle traveler. Sleep well.